Sirens wail through the night, swallowed by the chant of thousands pouring into Tehran's rain-slick streets. Fires flicker against apartment walls, where taps give nothing but hollow coughs of air. In the distance, soldiers once feared for their discipline now stand uncertain, some turning their rifles down, others simply walking away into the crowd. A mother leans from a broken window, her voice quivering above the chaos as she calls for her missing son. The echo lingers, part cry, part accusation, while power lines spark overhead, casting brief flashes of light across faces numbed by hunger and disbelief. The city has become a breathing creature of fury and exhaustion. Its heartbeat is collective defiance. Somewhere beyond the smoke, a single question rises from every whispered prayer and clenched fist. How does a government collapse from within? To answer that, we rewind 3 tumultuous months, when the money vanished and fear turned on its master. 3 months earlier, the silence inside Tehran's Grand Bazaar spoke louder than any protest. Shutters rattled closed along the narrow corridors where trade once echoed from dawn until dusk. The number on every shopkeeper's calculator had become meaningless. The rial dissolved daily, its value slipping faster than hands could count it. A gold coin, once a gift at weddings, now cost a month's wages. Families queued for bread only to find shelves bare by noon, and workers rode buses home holding salaries already obsolete. Above them, government officials argued over impossible budgets and missing oil revenues. People understood the equation long before economists did. Prices soared, wages froze, and trust evaporated. Glittering towers still glowed after dark, but below, whole districts went black as fuel and hope ran out together. When survival itself demands arithmetic that no longer adds up, the first cracks form unseen in the walls of power. Until fear itself begins to lose its value. It began quietly. A handful of merchants refused to open their stalls, claiming there was nothing left worth selling. Within hours, their defiance spread across Tehran like sparks on dry straw. Students left classrooms to join crowds gathering at the city's intersections, their voices rising above the din of traffic, stilling in fear. "Freedom, not hunger," they shouted, fists high, faces uncovered. Women stepped from doorways banging pots and cans, the rhythm matching the pulse of a city reclaiming its heartbeat. Police lines wavered. The front ranks of shields and helmets hesitated as smoke curled through the afternoon heat. Some officers turned their eyes away, unwilling to strike neighbors they recognized. The chants thickened into a single roar, louder than any decree the government had ever issued. For decades, fear guided every movement. Now it faltered in the dust. And when fear retreats, it leaves courage exposed, raw and unstoppable, spilling through the city's veins. The regime's iron guardians, once untouchable, found themselves drowning in noise they could no longer command. Orders ricocheted through broken communication lines. Regional commanders demanded clarity from superiors who answered with silence. Columns of armored vehicles rolled into squares, only to be surrounded by unarmed citizens chanting the names of fallen comrades. Some units fired warning shots. Others lowered their weapons and walked away, their uniforms blending into the mass of protest and dust. Inside ministry, buildings, panic thrummed like an electric current. Generals blaming ministers blaming ghosts. Rumors spread of truckloads of armaments missing, of loyalists refusing transport duty unless paid in dollars. The old discipline that once defined the Revolutionary Guard dissolved into hesitation, betrayal, and exhaustion. Cameras caught officers tearing insignias from their sleeves, whispering, "It's over." For the first time in decades, the regime's shield had cracked inward, revealing a truth more devastating than enemy fire. The protectors no longer believed in what they were protecting. For 3 days, the nation waited for a face that never appeared. State television recycled footage from weeks earlier, desperate to fill the void. Each hour of silence deepened the disbelief. The supreme leader, whose words once framed destiny, had vanished. In the mosques, whispers replaced sermons. On the streets, posters bearing his image were torn, half in rage, half in uncertainty. Officials muttered about illness, exhaustion, or divine retreat, none of it convincing a public that now measured truth by absence. Without his presence, every command lost its tone of finality. Bureau chiefs stopped issuing orders, clerics withdrew behind guarded gates, and rumor turned into authorities' only language. Power itself seemed to flicker, as though the state's pulse had gone wandering somewhere beyond reach. And while the palace searched for its voice, the streets found theirs louder than ever, an anthem of defiance echoing through the void he left behind. Once the figurehead disappeared, unity dissolved overnight. Parliament convened in fury, not purpose. Lawmakers shouting over each other, cameras catching their pale faces under fluorescent light. One faction accused the president of treason for losing the nation's reserves. Another demanded the arrests of ministers who had smuggled funds abroad. The finance chief resigned on live television. Blaming forces beyond control, his words drowned in laughter from the street below. On social media, leaked memos revealed billions missing from oil accounts. Siphoned through shell companies, now vanished into foreign banks. Cabinet meetings turned into interrogations. Alliances disintegrated as quickly as the currency, each politician clawing to prove innocence before the inevitable fall. In corridors thick with cigarette smoke, aides whispered about escape routes and foreign embassies. The government that once ruled by fear now consumed itself with accusations and betrayal, a spectacle more brutal than any protest outside its gates. Meanwhile, the nation watched its rulers implode. Far beyond Tehran's smoke, the tremors reached command centers in Moscow and Beijing. Russia's officials, already strained by a grinding war in Ukraine, realized their pipeline of cheap Iranian drones and missiles had suddenly gone dark. Factories that once hummed under Persian contracts now stood idle, their shipments trapped by chaos. In Beijing, oil traders watched prices spike as tankers delayed at Gulf ports. What had been a convenient ally, a supplier discounted by sanctions, had become a liability wrapped in uncertainty. Statements of concern masked economic dread. Billions in deals evaporating overnight. Western capitals, for once, chose silence, measuring the collapse without lifting a hand. For them, Tehran's turmoil meant a weaker arc of autocracy. For Russia, a hole in its armor. For China, turbulence in its energy map. The fall of order in Iran was rearranging the global chessboard piece by piece, faster than diplomats could react. Beneath the roar of politics, life in Tehran shrank to elemental struggle. Water trucks rattled through neighborhoods where children queued with plastic jugs, their laughter thin and nervous in the heat. Bread, when found, sold for the price of memory. Mothers bargained in whispers, fathers counted coins twice before, offering them with shame. Hospitals ran low on medicine, yet volunteers still arrived, wrapping wounds with torn bedsheets. Amid blackout evenings, families gathered around flickering candles to trade rumors instead of meals. Yet resilience, not despair, threaded these nights together. Strangers shared what little they had, neighbors guarded each other's doors, and silence between explosions turned into murmured prayers for dawn. Iran's headlines told of collapse, but its people revealed something harder to erase, a stubborn heartbeat that refused to match the rhythm of fear. Through them, the meaning of survival became painfully simple. Endure until they can hope again. In the capital's smoky dawn, no one commands the city, only possibilities. One rumor speaks of an interim council forming inside a guarded ministry. Another says tanks are heading north to secure escape routes. Foreign embassies shutter their gates, diplomats clutching evacuation plans while outside their walls. Protest marshals coordinate food and safety zones through makeshift radios. The air is tense with questions. Will the army fully defect or fracture under pressure? Will moderates step forward before the streets decide their own justice? Each hour lengthens, thick with expectation and dread. Traders watch exchange boards blinking zeros. Soldiers listen for directives that never come. It is the silence before either order or anarchy, the breath held between two histories. Within 48 hours, Iran may witness negotiation, or its final descent into unraveling. Every heartbeat counts, and none know which side of midnight tomorrow will claim. Revolutions don't always announce themselves with banners or speeches. Sometimes they begin with silence, the kind that follows when fear finally stops working. Tehran's silence tonight isn't surrender but transformation. the collective realization that obedience was never oxygen, only habit. The streets that once trembled. Before power now echo with a different rhythm, the murmuring certainty that no authority outlasts hunger and truth combined. Around the world, governments still call for restraint. Analysts talk of instability, but those inside Iran know they've crossed a line that can't be redrawn. Regimes can rebuild economies and armies, but they cannot resurrect belief once it dies. History doesn't close its doors quietly, it slams them, echoing through centuries. And as dawn approaches over a scarred city, one fact burns brighter than any neon skyline. When fear collapses, a new world, fragile and untested, begins to breathe.